God bless the Seven, this is Xandar Control. The Hopes and Dreams of the Nova Corps and the people of Xandar are with you.
May it speed us on to a future for our...
Portal opening in 3, 2, 1. Go, and warn the galaxy about Thanos.
Welcome one and all to the Fanitarium, where the fans run the nut house. And honestly, if you look on the internet these days, how many fandoms kind of feel like nut houses from time to time? You know, we're in a time where Star Wars movies are divisive, Marvel movies are divisive, DC movies are divisive. People just can't sit back and like something, and then people have to, voice their opinion and say, you're wrong, and attack them for it. Let people like things. But today, we're going to be talking about Marvel. It's a very big month for Marvel. Officially, Infinity War is supposed to come out this month. It came out in April. But Infinity War, Deadpool 2, yes, they're made by different studios. But it's a very big month for Marvel. And heck, Star Wars with Marvel Comics. We got Solo coming. So this month, we're dedicated entirely to the Marvel Universe. And we're going to start off really quickly with our guest of the show. This man was on a couple months ago on our other show. But he is an award-winning makeup artist for films, and we've had him on the show before talking about stuff like Star Trek and Terminator, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and X-Men Apocalypse, where Oscar Isaac's makeup was significantly harder than you possibly think. And so he's been working on Infinity War, so we're going to have him on again. So without further ado, let's get straight to our guest, and of course, we got to have him introduced properly, so take it away, Zach.
Dearest listeners, we would be most remiss in our exaltation of our most beloved geek culture if we did not acknowledge those who chose to dedicate their livelihoods to its visual realization upon our humble human forms. For it is through such homage to characters so dear to our lives that we keep their memory, their legacy, and their symbolic power alive and well. You may know such dedicated professionals as makeup artists. So imagine our delight when one dark and gloomy evening, the Fanitarium's Hall of Imitation sprang into vibrant and colorful form, where once there stood stony gray statues casting their faceless gaze down upon all who chose to walk its dimly torch-lit corridors, there stood, nay, danced, an army of icons, Gamora dueling Nebula, Mystique effortlessly shape-shifting, Thanos triumphantly flexing the Infinity Gauntlet. We knew there was but one man whose arrival such fervor and frenzy from the statues could herald. Brian Sipe. Mr. Sipe has worked on no less than 60 films as a makeup artist, bringing our favorite characters to life in such movies as Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men, and yes, Avengers Infinity War. Mr. Sipe, we owe you a debt of gratitude for your efforts in ensuring the realizations of popular culture icons in film. And the doors of the hallowed hall stand open to you. The statues, having assumed their forms, now stand ready to greet you. The heads of hero and villain alike bowed in anticipation of your company and conversation. Welcome, dear Mr. Sipe, to the Fanitarium.
So welcome back to the show, Brian. Last time you were on, we covered a lot of topics. We covered X-Men Apocalypse, you covered your work with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, you've done lots of makeup work with award-winning projects, and now we can finally talk about the one that you wanted to talk about then but didn't dare because a sniper might have, found you. That being Infinity War, which is now out, and it's been out long enough that I feel safe talking about it without anyone hurting me. Mostly safe.
Especially Thanos.
Yes.
Thanks for having me back. And happy to talk about Infinity War. I've seen it twice now, and I'm going to see it a third time tomorrow with my kids, and looking forward to, seeing all the stuff that I missed the first couple of times. And, I've enjoyed it both times I've seen it, so.
Had you seen any of the film before the premiere? I saw pictures of you at the premiere. Had you seen any of it before then?
No, had not at all. I mean, actually, when we saw it at premiere, I thought that was something that was interesting. Is that they had international kind of viewings. Like you'd see Benedict Cumberbatch in Singapore with Karen Gillan or whatever. I guess even at those openings, they only showed like 15 to 20 minutes of the movie at a time. So the first time that we saw it at the premiere was the first time that it had been played in its entirety. So that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. And I imagine, just, you know, from having seen the film, and, you know, it's kind of like segmented into different teams. With the production, do they divide it up that way, or is it, you know, so like you only work with a specific team as you go through, or was it pretty much just everything happening at the same time? How did they segment this? I know they did 2 films, and so there's stuff we haven't seen yet that you've clearly worked on. But how much of this film did they divide up into segments to get it all done versus, you know, the way a film is typically done? Because this is bigger than most of those.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I can't imagine the first AD's job on this job, Chris Cristaldi. I mean, because, you know, him and his team having to, you know, schedule and organize. I mean, not only was it trying to really kind of think about shooting these 2 movies at the same time, or, you know, back to back. And not only did you have to think about all the characters and how their involvements were going to be with each other and their teams. And, you know, it's not like the Guardians just hung out either, because it was like, you know, Nebula would go off and do this, and, you know, Drax and Mantis went here, and Rocket went, I mean, you know, so even like all the characters themselves split up. And then you have to manage all the actors' schedules. You know, we had, you know, there were chunks of times that we only shot, you know, looking one way because Benedict was finishing another film in London. And then when he came back, then we could look the other way and shoot that stuff. And so, I mean, it was bizarre trying to keep track of a lot of the stuff.
And I know they were filming, at least for part of the shoot, Black Panther was still filming at the same time. Because I remember hearing stories about like how when they did, you know, the battle at the end in Wakanda, how like the directors didn't know of the chant that the Wakandans do and had to be told, because, you know, they hadn't seen most of Black Panther stuff when they were filming. And, you know, there's extra stuff that are in Black Panther, like the rhinos are in Black Panther, but they're not in this one because they probably didn't know, because they hadn't, you know, kind of close.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when we were there shooting it, I mean, the other teams were there, the other film was working, and, you know, it's, I mean, the Marvel world is a crazy web, that's for sure.
So, in this film, I imagine they had an army of makeup teams, because you have the biggest cast I can possibly imagine, and who knows how much got, well, you might know some, but we don't know how much got cut. We also don't know what's coming up in the next films. But which characters did you specifically, or which teams did you specifically get to work with yourself?
I mean, I worked on, you know, my focus was mostly the Guardians, anything that had to do with the Guardians. You know, when, you know, the biggest new thing that we got to do was, you know, when we went back to Gamora's planet, you know, when she, and kind of create that character. You know, that was something, obviously, you know, I represent Legacy Effects in Los Angeles. And, you know, that was a fun character and a fun whole, you know, civilization that we got to create. And I mean, you know, we had 65 characters that we did. And we, you know, we created, you know, individual looks with, you know, hair and makeup and scarification and tattoos and, you know, markings and stuff that, you know, that would fit itself within, you know, the mythos of even Gamora and how she looks. And so that was a lot of fun. I got to bring on, I think, 70 people, hair and makeup from, you know, the 706 and 798 and just all over the place. Yeah, it was a huge team. And, you know, one of those days where you start at 1 a.m. and everybody touches 2 people. And then by the time we're all done, it's, you know, everybody goes to set at, you know, 9 a.m. and then we have our work day.
So I know before you mentioned the Guardians 2, you specifically were talking about, I believe it was Nebula and Drax, where there were some changes. Were there any slight changes in how you did the makeup for these ones that we should look out for? You know, any differences from, you know, with Gunn versus the Russos?
Well, you know what, the one thing that we did do with Avengers for Nebula is we did resculpt her makeup. We, you know, just to try and streamline the makeup, you know, just to make it faster, make it a little bit better. You know, and I think the guys actually got it down to about 2 hours, you know, 2.5 hours with the hair wrap. I mean, it was, you know, that down from the original movie where they were, I think, doing it in like 4 or 5 hours. So that was, one of the big things that we did. And, you know, and then we're always trying to, you know, push ourselves, you know, Drax's makeup pretty much stayed the same. But we would, change little things. Like I changed the makeup base one time to a different product just to see how that would work. And, or we do different little tricks, try and reconfigure the dance to try and make it faster. But I mean, we still kind of landed right around 70 minutes, 68 minutes, something like that. And that's just kind of, I think, happily where that makeup's going to live.
Now, I imagine with a movie like this, undoubtedly, there's a lot on the cutting room floor that we ever got to see. Did you ever have a character that you put lots and lots of time into the makeup only to see it, like, not actually end up in the movie? Or maybe, actually, they could be bumped to the next one. We don't know this. You don't know. But, yeah, did you have characters like that where you're like, I put in like 2 hours into that character every day, and you never got to see it? Or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that happens a lot, or I've worked on effects, where you'll work on something for like 4 months and, and you spend 2 days shooting the effect, and then all of a sudden, it gets whittled down to about 2 seconds. And, and so, but I think on this one, the Zeheroberai, when we went back to Gamora's planet, that was one that, we spent about 3 weeks designing and making hair pieces and, creating looks. And the first time I saw the film, I was a little bummed because I felt like it all happened so fast. You really didn't get a chance to see like the people that we created. But when I saw it the second time, I realized that you did see some of them, as well as you did get a sense that, you were at her home planet, that you were within this land that, that made it live within the story, so that, when that moment happens, when, Thanos does his deed, that you do feel it, so then I kind of felt better about it. I felt like, okay, we achieved it. We got our job done, because you believe that it was a people.
Indeed. I remember last time, I believe you were saying how you did some of the work on X-Men Days of Future Past with prosthetics and so on with Legacy. Did you get to do any of the makeup in this one with Peter Dinklage character?
No, all that stuff. John Blake was he ran the straight makeup department. Janine Thompson ran the hair department. Okay. So they worked on that. Again, I dealt with the Guardians and mostly. Yeah.
Well, this one, I can imagine. I know Robert Downey Jr. probably has his own specific person that he picks himself.
Yes.
I don't know how many others have their own, but he for sure has his own.
Yeah. A lot of them have their own people that they've had, for years, and they that kind of things landed at camps. I mean, we did help out in some other places with some of the characters that you'll probably see in the second movie, but we can talk about that then.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of characters they saved, and there's a whole lot of characters that they did not.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to
brooming people under the rug.
And the way I see it, if you didn't see it, they're probably still around, and so we're looking forward to. I don't know. I'm a fan of the fact that they remind you halfway through the movie that, oh yeah, he doesn't kill everyone, so half of those Guardians are still alive somehow. So we might get to see Korg sometime. I just want Taika Waititi to come back in, because Taika is amazing. My mom's from New Zealand, and so I've known Taika Waititi for probably 2 decades, and so it's good to see what he did with Ragnarok. So one thing I wonder, last time we talked about with X-Men Apocalypse, you got to do Apocalypse makeup, and we got to see like the bald, how you make Oscar Isaac bald without making him bald. We talked about that awesome effect. I imagine with this one, with just how the internet fans reacted to Apocalypse from one picture taken in weird lighting. Imagine the entire effects people and makeup people were glad that Thanos was a motion cap character and they didn't have to deal with it, and they weren't going to show him until he was ready to be shown, because I imagine that was just really stressful to be like, dude, he's not actually purple. He's not from Power Rangers. That's not what he looks like in real life. That reaction, I imagine it was kind of calming to be like, the big bad's not in our responsibility. We're good to go. See what happens.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that's kind of, I will say scary for my business, is Thanos is really good, as a motion capture and a digital character. I mean, I will, hats off to the digital teams in Infinity War, because it seemed like they've solved a lot of those issues with some digital characters where, like gravity always seemed to be, in some places seems to be an issue, or just like the subtle movements and the subtle everything. There was something very nice and subtle about Thanos and Josh Brolin's, acting through it all that I think just makes that an incredible character.
Indeed. You definitely see where the motion capture has advanced. I think you could probably praise Andy Serkis for that with the Apes movies, but like the face alone, like the fact that he can emote like that and you can actually get it from just dots on the face is really kind of awesome. I guess they call it digital makeup now, which is kind of, I guess the scary part for you is the digital makeup.
No, digital makeup is a whole other thing. There's a different thing that's going on that's I think they're calling digital makeup, but they'll, where they can go in and they'll add a tattoo to some guy and that'll track throughout the movie,
Or remove the Rock's
stuff
tattoos.
like that. Or remove the Rock's tattoos. Yeah. I mean, that's all digital makeup. Yeah.
Okay. But definitely this one, you did hit on one point that definitely was a big thing. It moved very quickly. Like, it might have been the longest Marvel movie, but it moved very fast. And
I know who didn't want, when that movie ended, who didn't want another half hour or another hour? I think, it's like, I mean, it was done so well. I think everybody, would, didn't want it to end.
And I think the moving fast was really good for people who had seen all the Marvel movies. This movie is really good as like the, not finale, but like the penultimate episode of a season where you're like, if you know all these characters, you're good to go. But anyone who just jumped in at Infinity War going, oh, this movie looks good, I feel sorry for them because you got nothing beyond a couple of points and you jumped in.
Yeah. But I mean, the one thing that, but I think there's enough happening there. I mean, there are some of those, inside jokes that, you have to have seen some of the other Thor movies to get the Thor stuff, or,
Yep.
but I think mostly though, you can almost take it as a standalone, knowing that these are the lore of that these are, certain characters or certain heroes. I thought one thing that I was really pleased about and enjoyed when I saw the movie was that everybody did, savor their own voice, like the whole Thor and Star-Lord thing happening. I mean, it was just funny that it was their characters coming at each other, and but like the Avengers humor was different than the Guardians humor was different than Thor's humor, and but they all mixed, and Doctor Strange's. I mean, you know what I mean? It was fun to see that everybody. It didn't just start sounding like one voice. Everybody's was different, but it all mixed. So it was great.
Yeah, and as someone who worked on, I believe the shoot for this movie was massive. If I remember hearing rumors, it was the most expensive filming shoot of all time, which I believe it. If Robert Downey Jr. is getting like a quarter of that money, I believe it. But did you when you saw the final product, did you expect the split to be where it was, or did you know that was going to be where the split was going to be, or was that kind of shift around after the movie was filmed and they decided then? They
kept a lot of people in the dark. I mean, even crew didn't get scripts to read. I never read a full script. I read pieces of scripts and stuff like that. And I never, it was part of it was due to my fault. Like when I was out, in Atlanta, you had to go to the reading room, and and I just, I'd never had 3-4 hours to check myself into the reading room just to read the script. But even when they did, they gave out some scripts to the crew and some actors and stuff that were dummy scripts.
Like Tom Holland, so he does not need to know what happens.
Yeah. I mean, and so, I mean, that's what happened. They so some people in the scripts that they read, some people died, but then didn't, and other people's were going to die, but then they didn't. And, so you didn't know even, when you're a character in this movie, if you were going to actually die or not.
That's really cool. And then,
yeah. I mean, not only, it was like really they were keeping everybody in the dark, I guess, they really just didn't want, the information to get out there, and sometimes it does, some internet leak somewhere.
and I imagine, and they did a really good job of keeping this one under wraps. Very, very impressive for this day and age of movies. I imagine it's the exact same thing they're trying to do with the last scene of the Game of Thrones right now. Just give out as many fake endings as possible and make sure if anything leaks, like, we have 7 others to go.
I mean, it is funny that even amongst this, the internet and everything, that people can still do it. And I know that they took some of their lead, I think, from Rogue One, because I just remember, again, when everybody was like, no spoilers, everybody, and everyone's trying to post, no spoilers, no spoilers. When I went and saw Rogue One, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this ending. And then, and so they really kind of were kind of, going after that model of just, trying to, just keep everything under wraps so that everybody could enjoy it,
Yeah, and it worked. It worked for me. Now, definitely this movie, they said they haven't revealed the title of the 4th one yet because they want this one to, sink in. I know it's not everyone liked it. Most people did, but there are people who have issues. Honestly, in my direct line of family and friends, most of the females had issue with Gamora. We'll see what happens. But they had issues with what happened.
They had issue with her dying?
Yeah, they didn't like. They felt it was very fridged, like very. She died to make Star-Lord angry versus being her own character. I disagree with that interpretation, but But there's a lot of, even on my own wall, that females that don't like how Gamora was treated in that movie, and I can see how. I just don't agree with it, but it happens.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I felt it was, in the world of, I guess in the universe of Thanos in the Marvel universe. I mean, it seemed like that would have been. To me, it's funny because I think that they almost portray him too sentimental.
Yeah.
With too much humanity. I think the only time that he really should have had it was probably at that moment with her, because that was to him, his biggest sacrifice.
I think the thing is, if you read it as if you buy that Thanos relationship with her, like I did and others did, then you buy that moment.
Sure.
If you buy that relationship as kind of like the Purple Man and Jessica Jones, then you don't buy that moment as well, because it's more like it reads false. So it depends. If you buy it, it works. If you buy it as he's kind of like an abuser, which you can read it that way, like the Purple Man, then you don't buy it as genuine. I think some of it's because the movie had to move so fast. It's almost like a Thanos origin story that if you get it quickly in shorthand, you get it. If you don't, it has to move. It just had to move. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I in hearing your explanation of that, there was a couple of other moments when she was a little girl, and that whole village scene that it seems like it would have been something that would have made it a little bit more endearing of like why he gravitated to her, and so maybe that would have been a little bit more of a setup for some people if they felt that like, if they didn't buy his relationship with her or not.
Yeah. Plus it's kind of like,
but without getting into the whole, sitting in a field and throwing a ball at each other, like Star-Lord and Kurt Russell. I mean, you're really not going to go into that with Thanos other than hearing some of the backstory from Guardians 2 of, Nebula and Gamora going at it,
Honestly, and we did a pre-movie guessing of who's going to die and who's not, because, that's the biggest thing to talk about. I think the only character that we all pegged was going to die was the obvious one, being Vision, because he had a stone in his head.
Right.
But like most of us thought Nebula was where it was going to go, because she felt like the one whose arc was going, and I think it was really daring to have Nebula survive because Gamora sacrificed herself for her, and have her be the one around instead of Gamora. I think that was a really kind of like daring choice, because no one would have pegged Nebula to have the continuing arc, but they did.
Right.
I like that. I really
also, I haven't read the comic books, but I mean, I've been told that in the comic books, isn't Nebula? She's really, she's a driving force, I think, in the Infinity Wars, right?
I think so, yeah. But the other driving force is Adam Warlock, who we haven't seen
right.
yet. But we probably will eventually in a movie that you might do the makeup for. Hint at the end of Guardians 1 and 2. But yeah,
yeah.
So that moment's definitely one you buy it or you don't. Did you know that Red Skull was returning in this movie before you had seen it? Had that one come out to you? I'm curious about that makeup.
I mean, yeah, it did. I mean, there was a while where we were approached to do the makeup, and then. But it ended up being, I mean, he's a digital character. So once again, hats off to the digital team. They created another character that looked great.
The original makeup was actual makeup mixed with digital, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I think that was done by David White's team on Hugo.
Okay. Because it felt different. Like, it looked accurate enough, but it had more like the ridges and so on. And I was like, how in the world do you get that with makeup? It's more pointy.
Yeah. I know it would have been fun to do the makeup again and try and see if we could improve upon it. I think it was a pretty good makeup as it was, by David and his team. But I mean, coming at things a second time, there's always like some place where you can kind of, move in a little bit or pull out a little bit and change it and zhuzh it up a little to kind of not only make it your own, but in your own eyes, make it better.
So were any of the villains in makeup, or were they all CGI, like the Children of Thanos? I know Thanos was mocap, but were the Children of Thanos a mix, or were they all CGI as well? They
were all mocap as well.
Okay, so that's all CG.
Yeah, which again is again amazing. I mean, I felt that their presence was incredible.
That's really interesting, because so that means all the good guys, except for the tree and the raccoon, were makeup and practical.
Right. Right.
And then all the bad guys were CG and mocap.
Yeah,
it worked.
Yeah, no, it worked well. I mean, I think there were a couple of the villains that I think we could have approached as makeups. Not sure why we didn't. But
the magic one, I thought you guys could have done makeup on that guy pretty well. I forgot what his name was. The one who got jetted in the space alien style.
Yeah, or even like the girl with the ram eyes. I thought she definitely, could have been a makeup, but, I don't know. They wanted to go digital. I think a lot of, a lot of productions these days like to go digital because they can work on it later. They can do certain things that, that they can't with, certain humans' real estate.
That's true. But of course, the danger with that one is you might have what happened with Justice League, where you have 2 months to finalize the effects, and you just do good enough versus that's actually what you want it to look like, or a Green Lantern. Or
exactly.
You have to rush it, and you don't want to rush some of those. You need like Star Wars gets a full year, maybe more. You can't give them a couple months to finalize that stuff. It's not fair.
Yeah. And then it was too bad, I think, especially with Justice League. Yeah, there's that too. But hey, which is weird and too bad because I think there's a lot of great companies out there and they do and they have done awesome work. So it is too bad when they just get rushed and then all of a sudden that's all you remember.
Yeah, because I think with Justice League, if I recall right, they had started special effects as you saw that first trailer before Zack Snyder left, and it looked decent. And then Whedon came in and had to reshoot it, and so they got rid of the effects they'd already done because they no longer looks right. And then they had to redo it in the last couple of months, and digital artists take time. And I think with Green Lantern, they even hired people like 3 weeks before release to finish it, just chucked money at the film to get it done. And that's
you
never want that.
And just push it. Just push it.
Yeah. At least you can do it like I think it was X-Men First Class, where they didn't have all the effects done, but the ones that needed to be done were done, and the ones that weren't perfect looked good enough, but the ones that needed to be done, like Superman's face, would have been done. Yes. Especially when you open the movie with it. Oh, that set me off right away, first shot. But this one, I think most of the effects look pretty darn good. I nothing as video gamey as I think Age of Ultron's first scene, where you could tell it was all CG.
Right.
But it looked good for the most part. I think there's maybe a couple of things that's they probably didn't need as much. They probably needed more time, but it wasn't as important. But I'm really excited to see where the second one's going to go, because this is the first time I've seen a movie outside of, I think there's one film I've ever seen that left me I had no words. I couldn't say anything. I just had to sit there and ruminate for a while. The only time I've ever had a movie like that was United 93, that Paul Greengrass 9/11 movie. About the flight in Pennsylvania that literally ends with it crashing. And you just kind of sit there for a while. This movie had that effect on me, and it was just, wow.
Yeah. No, definitely. And you do have to kind of sit there and think and wonder and just, again, that's where I just kind of want that extra half hour, but they're gonna, we'll save it for the next movie.
Yeah, and one thing
another movie that gives you that feeling. Another movie. You remember that movie Miracle Mile?
Yes.
Is that what it was called?
Oh wait,
Miracle. With Jennifer Jason Leigh and Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
That was another one where you're just like, whoa, man. You just sit there.
Yeah, in this one, I will say another criticism I have seen is, they announced it as Avengers Infinity War Parts 1 and 2, and then they spent the last year and a half saying, no, it's its own movie, it's not Part 1, Part 2, and then the movie ends the way it does, so sure, it looks like a Part 1, Part 2, though it does have a complete arc for Thanos, which is good. It's not like Hunger Games. It's like, we're done.
Yeah.
It does have an arc. It just feels like it's definitely a Part 1, Part 2. Hopefully, though, that's resolved with the second one. That it makes sense because it's the type of one that hopefully makes more sense with the last part. And in the meantime, we get 2 prequels, I think.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is prequel or sidequel ish, and then Captain Marvel, which is prequel, which you're not working on Captain Marvel, I believe. That's a different team.
Maybe.
We'll find out. Well, I know there's Guardians people in there. There's Coulson in there. There's all these people in there. So I'm excited to see that one. I'm excited to see where they go. And I've never cared about Captain Marvel in my life, but I'm excited. So.
Yeah. No, I think there'll be some fun stuff in there for everybody too.
But one thing we know you're working on, because it's posted on IMDb and on other things, X-Men Dark Phoenix, one of the 3 X-Men movies that was supposed to come out this year, but only one is actually coming out, and it's coming out this weekend, that being Deadpool. Dark Phoenix, 4th of the First Class series. This one, 90s, I guess, if they follow their formula. That's coming out in February, right?
I think so. I mean, I know that we were contacted recently about, heads up, some reshoots are coming. So, I mean, that's all that I kind of know about that. I mean, I know that, it was, I think the one thing I can talk about, because I think pictures were released in Entertainment Weekly. We got a chance to go in and redesign Mystique's makeup. And it was not that we thought it was broken. Actually, the director, wanted a different look for her. I think something that went a little softer. And so we, were able to kind of have a little fun and do that. So,
and this is Simon Kinberg's directorial debut. So you get to see Kinberg, who's written and worked on all these movies with you guys. Now he actually gets to call the shots. So let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
And, Jennifer Lawrence, of course, is returning, surprising almost everyone on the planet.
Surprised me too.
And she has gone from the first movie's makeup that she didn't like, the second one where she was kind of wearing like a jumpsuit with makeup, if I recall right, the Days of Future Past one.
I mean, it was like a giant body prosthetic.
And then the third one was it a body prosthetic as well?
Yep. Yeah.
And then this one's body prosthetic with a little shift in the makeup.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, hopefully she had a good experience in this one, because I like her Mystique when she cares, but you can tell when she was in it when she's out. But I will say this: I do think when it comes to Mystique, my favorite one is still the Rebecca Romijn. Like the physicality of Romijn fit the character I knew from the animated show and from the comics up until then. But I'm really excited to see where this one goes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be excited to see, how this rounds up too, because I'm not exactly sure, what we're going to be doing when we go into reshoots, or, if much stuff is going to change, or it's just, pickups. So we're all waiting to hear.
See what Simon Kinberg does with his second chance to hit this storyline.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And then, of course, by the time it comes out, we don't even know who's going to own Fox by then. It could be Disney, it could be Comcast, it could be Squirrels. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, although I'm kind of hoping that Disney gets it all back, so that it'd be interesting to see if you do have if they can bring that all those series, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, bring those back into the Marvel fold. and under Feige's, guide, then it'd be great to redo some of that stuff.
Yeah. And I'm assuming for this one, since we've seen the images, we know Dark Phoenix is probably 90% CGI because she's on fire. Unless you're going to do like Ramstein style, set them on fire and go. But we never asked this last time, is Nightcrawler makeup or is that a CGI mix?
No, my Nightcrawler is makeup. He's an incredible makeup job. I think, it's fun. Done by, now his name is escaping me. Really good makeup artist up in Montreal. Wow, embarrassing. I'm totally spacing on his name right now, him and his team. But no, and every day too, they would make him up. They'd make up a stunt guy, and in away they would go. I think he's got a tail as well. That's physical, and he does, and of course that's augmented by digital.
Okay. Would the name that would this be Caroline Aquin who did his makeup? Or is that a different person?
Caroline, she did the makeup, applied with Kathy C. Adrian Moreau. There we go. Came back to me. Adrian Moreau is his shop did the makeups up there, as well as some of the other ancillary makeups for the show. I think with the straight makeup department, they helped create some of the other characters. But Adrian, he's really talented.
And Matt Sprunger is returning for Nicholas Hoult, right, for Beast makeup?
It's Scott Stoddard, actually, was the lead on the Beast makeup. Okay. Matt was, the secondary player has, it's changed hands from, Mike Cornelius to Alexia Dmitriev and Matt Sprunger. Matt took over for Alexi when we had to bounce and go back to do some stuff for Infinity War. And then Matt, who was on was on the Drax team for Guardians 2, he went up and helped Scott do the makeup then. Last year was a busy year of bouncing from show to show to show. We had like this break, this window in the Infinity War production schedule, and that's just when Dark Phoenix wanted to shoot, so everything just kind of timed itself out perfectly.
Interesting. So one question I had, a lot of the makeup that we talk about are characters like, say, Drax and so on that are kind of hairless, or they have the little details on it, little finite ones. But when you have a character like Beast with hair, what type of challenges does that add to doing the makeup for a character like that when you have to add hair and things that are supposed to be growing out of him?
Yeah. It's just it can be sometimes problematic, but really, it all comes down to it just being kind of like another piece of the prosthetic, or another prosthetic. There are hair, lace pieces that we use as a wig, and then there is some hand lay that happens so that you can kind of sell the edges and stuff like that to make it look more realistic. But no, when it's all hair can be very difficult, because you do have different textures and colors and color mixes and stuff like that you need to contend with. But,
I'm kind of glad also that Stacey Butterworth is returning for wigs, because she came in when like the best wigs started in X-Men, because before that you had like Storm's changing wigs in the first two, and then like the third one, the wigs started getting, they started getting more consistently better with Last Stand, and then I believe she did Days of Future Past and some of the other ones. Now she's coming back, and so I'm glad, because consistency is really good. Now it's one thing X-Men hasn't exactly had. They don't really have a consistent theme. They have, things have been shifting in and out, but I'm glad the teams are kind of solidifying, and these people are coming together to get it to improve makeup every time rather than just changing it. And it looks like this one's going to be good. It looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And
then, of course, the other one that we saw a peek at that's delayed even longer is the one with all the kids with New Mutants, the horror film. I'm really interested what they're going to do with Demon Bear, because that's not a character I thought I'd see in a live-action movie in my life.
Yeah. It's funny that we'll have to see what happens with all of the the Fox stuff. It seems it seems like all this stuff's just kind of like sprouting sprouting up out of the woodwork.
At least the good thing with X-Men though is X-Men. It's the only one of the only franchise outside of Spider-Man in Marvel that can stand on its own without any help with anything because it's such a big sprawling epic as is. And there's tons of characters you can draw from, timelines you can draw from. They can go into space, they can go into the future, they can time travel, and it all fits.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of places they can go, and there's 2 TV shows with Legion and The Gifted and Legion. Who knows what's happening in that one because it messes with your head. It's great though. And then The Gifted, which is more like a standard X-Men approach. And I like it. You never know what you're going to get when it comes to an X-Men movie, which is good and bad. When it comes to a Marvel MCU movie, you kind of know what you're going to get. It just, they shift the formula a bit every time. But I like it. You never know what's going to happen when it comes to X-Men. But I'm glad that they're kind of sticking to their guns right now with all these people. I just wish that the conceit with all these films was not everyone is 10 years later, because some of these characters are not 30 years older than they were when we first saw them. Quicksilver,
Right.
Quicksilver is not it's not that much older. But it's fine.
No.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so just make sure I asked everything I have on my list here. But so Dark Phoenix, we're expecting that it comes out February 14th, so Valentine's Day weekend next year. It worked really well for Deadpool.
Yes.
Hopefully it
Perfect
works
date
well
movie.
for this.
Perfect date movie.
Who knows when we're seeing the New Mutants? April, I think, is when they postponed it to, but we'll find out. And then Infinity War we'll see next, or not Infinity War, Avengers 4 we'll see next May. And then perhaps we'll see more of your work in the future with more Marvel movies. I'm assuming you're going to be on Guardians Volume 3. That's just me assuming.
I'm hoping so. Yeah, I hope so as well.
I think that's one of 2 movies that's announced that they're doing post-Avengers. Who knows when it's going to take place, of course, because I think Volume 2 took place before Age of Ultron, so timeline-wise, who knows.
Right.
But I think that one and Spider-Man are the only ones we know are coming. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, but it looks like you've had an extremely busy year.
I've had a crazy busy year, but it's been a good year. And you know what I mean? Hey, I cannot complain at all though. I had a lot of great opportunities and it's been a lot of fun, and a film like Infinity War, it's that's a great job. Me and my team, we're all proud of the work we did and proud to be a part of it.
And with more Terminator coming, more Marvel coming, more X-Men coming, more Star Trek coming, it looks like you're going to be really busy. But there is one more film I know you're working on right now, at least according to everything I've done. Aren't you working on a Stephen Lang action film called The Tower? Or is that is one of those passion projects that we're hoping gets picked up and moves across, and we're waiting to see. Stephen Lang. I wish he ended up as Cable, because I still think he would have been the perfect Cable, but Brolin looked like he was having fun in both his films, so
yeah,
he's going to have the biggest month of his life.
The year of Brolin, this one.
Yeah, the year of Brolin, and there was another one who was popping up in everything this year. But Brolin's going to have one heck of a summer. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And I imagine you're going to have to clamp up for the next year, because you know things, or think you know things, that no one else knows, and we're going to have to wait till next week to find out what you know.
Yeah. And you know what? And I have no idea what I know. That, I will say that's one thing, with Marvel and the way that they like to do things, which is great. I think there's only really a handful of people who get the full picture. And even then, I think some of the pictures skewed so that, you may or may not know the right thing. So
2 quick questions still. First of all, Vision. Is Vision's makeup, or is that CG, or is it kind of depends on the scene type stuff if you know?
It's a combination of both. Again, that one was one that was handled by John Blake's team. I believe Bart Mixon was the one of the lead makeup artists on that. And there's a great portion of it that is, he's wearing like a cowl and the coloring on the face and all kinds of stuff. And then there are aspects of him that are digital.
Okay. And then the other one is, since I want to make sure I understood this earlier from it, did you, when we talked about the Wakanda stuff, did they go to the Wakanda set while they were filming Black Panther to film that stuff, so they didn't have to like take it down and redo it, or did they reset up the Wakanda set as best they could?
No, we went in all afterwards.
Okay, so like they had finished shooting before they'd taken it down, or they just reset it up.
Yeah, we just went back out there to a different, to the same giant ranch out just south of Atlanta, and we shot there.
Okay.
But yeah.
So how much? Since I know when it comes to makeup, outside stuff is a lot different than when you're on a set with what you have to do with makeup. If I'm guessing how the stuff that's filmed outside, like an actual location, is like Wakanda, and then when they're in New York, because that's in Atlanta itself. Were there other sets that were actually outside that they kind of like digitally shifted, or is it most of the rest like in a soundstage?
Boy, I'm trying to remember on what we did. There's a lot of stuff that the second unit team, I wasn't there, but I think spent about 8 weeks in Scotland.
Okay. They did Scotland for the Vision stuff.
Yep, Scarlet and Vision.
And then, someone filmed Alaska. I saw that in the credits. I'm like, that was like the one scene where
although I'm not sure. I know. I was like, really? When did that happen? But yeah. I think they have these little units that kind of go off and just kind of get these little pieces that they need, and then but for the most part, a lot of it was shot there in Atlanta, in and around.
Interesting. And I know most of the Guardian stuff has to be a soundstage because you have motion capture. I think that was Sean Gunn doing the raccoon this time.
Right.
Crawling around, doing all that. So, and of course, Vin Diesel's voice modulated.
Yeah. For the group, yeah.
But I'm glad that you're keeping busy. I'm glad we're going to see some awesome projects. Because one thing, whether people like the X-Men movies or not, the makeup has always been fantastic. And there's always been an awesome aspect of it because you have so many characters to play with, and there's always like, which X-Men is that one? Do we have any idea? Let's guess. Which one is that one right over there? You have lots to play with, and it's always pretty fun. And it looks like for the most part they always do not always, but they try to do practical when it comes to X-Men as much as they can. Yeah. I think so. I mean, it's there's one thing that's kind of like grounded in some form of our reality. As much as I guess is possible, but yeah, we're fortunate there. Where, I think Brian Singer really did. He was a fan of makeup as well as digital. And he might have changed the costumes a bit, but really, I don't want to see Hugh Jackman in yellow. So I was good.
Yeah.
The yellow spandex. The black worked, and the first costumes work, and then the rest is you guys working your magic, and I love it. And looking forward to see what you guys do. But thank you so much for your time. If people want to follow the rest of your work and stuff, where do you want them to go?
You can go to Brian Sipe Makeup on Instagram, or you could go to my website, briansipe.com, and you could follow me there.
And do you have more of I know last time there was awesome blogs about Apocalypse, how you did the makeup with Oscar Isaac's head, how you made it, the hair disappear and so on. Do you have more of those updates on there now that Infinity War is out, or they're coming in the future?
You know what? I need to do that. I mean, I've been remiss. I mean, I've been kind of busy, and so I have not had a chance to go in and do some of the stuff that I want to do. But I do have some more stuff that I want to do. Post about Guardians 2 even, and now that I can, with some stuff with Infinity War, I can. Since all that stuff is out there, I can talk a little bit about that. So I will do that. I look forward to seeing it because you bring some fantastic stories of how the makeup works. Because these are things that people don't usually think about. Even like the costumes. I think I remember reading a story about one of the Star Wars movies were like, in the Revenge of the Sith, where they had 20 different versions of Anakin's costume at different points in the fight, and you're like, no one thinks about how many different things that have to go into these movies. Yeah, for sure. So, but thank you so much for your time, and I love that we were able to talk Infinity War and a little bit about Dark Phoenix because I'm admittedly more of an X-Men fan than I am an MCU fan, but I was a fan of X-Men, so it's just in my blood, and I look forward to seeing what we get with all of those, and look to see more of your work in the MC very soon with Guardians and Captain Marvel and who knows what else, maybe. We'll find out. Yeah, maybe. But thank you so much, sir, and have a fantastic rest of your day. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Mr. Brian Sipe. And for those who didn't hear me at the beginning,
Thank you again, Mr. Brian Sipe, and apparently I forgot the introduction at the beginning. I'm Jeremiah, I'm the host of the Fanitarium, and I will be solo today. Kayla is not here for reasons, but we're going to look at a few things of that interview. First of all, I am amazed at what type of stuff they can pull off in movies from locations you wouldn't expect. Wakanda, I know it wasn't filmed in South Africa and so on, but I did not expect it was a ranch in Atlanta. I've seen Atlanta. How you find these locations, it astounds me. I've done work as a location scout for a movie, and finding locations is very hard. But the way they just continuously find all these places to film Marvel movies around Atlanta just blows my mind. But yes, awesome stuff there, Brian. I'm so glad you're able to return and be able to talk more about Infinity War. And now, yes, you guys can talk more about Infinity War and Marvel stuff. There's a lot of great stuff which is coming out right now, but I think, first of all, we'll refer to what you, the fans, have been saying. We asked you guys a series of questions recently, and let's see what you all had to say about them. First of all, what do you think of Marvel Infinity War? Quick thoughts? Quite a few of you responded. Adam Bray, who's been a guest on the show, he said he loved it. John Rosmariak, he said Infinity War was huge and very well done. Let's see. Andrea Talbert said she felt we were given a Whedon-like storyline for Gamora, and she can't forgive that. It ruined the movie for her. And throughout the discussion, we actually had quite a big discussion with her. She is, like my co-host, one who did not like Infinity War because of what they did to Gamora. I do not personally understand it fully, but I'm going to do my best to try to state how it is. Marvel hasn't really had a female-centric character movie. Wonder Woman did it very well. They have their Captain Marvel one for the first one. It's been 10 years. They haven't really done it. As I said, for example, Wanda, or Scarlet Witch in this one. All we know from Civil War and the other ones is that she was the sister of Quicksilver. She's really powerful, and she apparently likes Vision, but she doesn't really have anything really to do. We had some strong characters in Black Panther and in Ragnarok, but they weren't really the leads. And there is the strongest female character, is what Andrea says, is Hela, which isn't that surprising. But they need to put some females front and center in these. Even in Ant-Man, it's Ant-Man and the Wasp. The Wasp, though, she's more popular than Ant-Man is, especially proper Ant-Man. And so there's a lot of things with representation. Now, the difference with DC and Marvel is DC has Wonder Woman, who's one of the biggest stars, female-wise, on the planet. When it comes to Marvel, they have Captain Marvel, but a lot of their biggest females, honestly, are X-Men. And X-Men don't really stand on their own very well. They tend to do an ensemble, but there's not as many characters to do a female-centric one on. But they even talk about Black Widow for how many years now, and they still haven't done it. They have these Guardians, but they don't always treat some of their characters very well. Now, it's not as bad as what Guggenheim did in Era with females, where he just outright murdered so many females in that show. That was inexcusable. But hopefully Marvel gets to turn this around. But the Gamora, what they did with Gamora, where they fridged it, which essentially means when a character is killed, raped, something terrible happens to a female character to advance the plot for the male to make them angry or whatever. That is what fridging is. Comics, especially DC, it started with, people noticed it, have been really famous for doing this over the years, and enough is enough. We also asked people, we've had Black Panther, which I loved, Infinity War, which I quite enjoyed, and I didn't like Civil War, so think about that. But we still have Deadpool, which came out this weekend, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Venom, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, all coming out this year. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the animated one with Miles Morales, and lots of other Spider-Man. Venom is Tom Hardy. Ant-Man and the Wasp is the MCU one that comes out this summer. So we asked them, which one are you most looking forward to? Andrea said Venom. Adam Bray, Ant-Man and the Wasp. John said probably Venom. Deadpool's not his thing. And the other ones, we didn't really think about it all. Bryce excited for Deadpool. Others say they're looking forward to Captain Marvel, though that comes out next year. But definitely something people are looking forward to. It's kind of interesting. We got a lot of variety the rest of the year because we're gonna have 3 MCU movies this year. We have a Spider-Man one, animated Spider-Man one, no X-Men, but that's all coming next year. Next year though, we get Avengers 4, Captain Marvel, X-Men, Dark Phoenix, X-Men: The New Mutants, Spider-Man: Homecoming 2. What are your thoughts on these ones? One of them said, "I'm keeping an open mind, but Marvel's been watering down every female character. Can't say I'm holding my breath for Captain Marvel to be any different. A lot of potential though." Captain Marvel, I'm expecting the most. I'm looking forward to Marvel Studios stuff. Another one from John says, "I hope they pick up the game for female characters." Another one, I'm not really excited for any of them, but Deadpool should be fun, and to see what they continue going from there. So a lot of good stuff coming out when it comes to these. As far as me, the rest of the year, I'm not really excited for Venom. It doesn't. I'm a Spider-Man fan, but I don't really like Venom as an anti-hero. I gotta see where the rest of it goes. The Ant-Man one, we'll see what they do. Ant-Man and the Wasp, I'm really excited for. It looks fun, which is surprising because I don't like Ant-Man, but I like that Ant-Man. So that one looks to be a lot of fun. Next year, though, Avengers 4, you gotta figure out how this whole thing is going to end. Captain Marvel, I'm really looking forward to because it's the 90s. You get Coulson back, you get Ronan back, you get all these people back. I'm always game for X-Men, Dark Phoenix, New Mutants, especially after what Brian was saying about Dark Phoenix. It looks like we're going to get some great stuff. And really, if Jennifer Lawrence wants back, she probably cares. So that's exciting. Spider-Man: Homecoming 2, I'm going to have to see what they do. I'm a huge Spider-Man fan, but I did not like Homecoming at all. Really, at all. I liked him in Civil War. I liked him in Infinity War, but I didn't like Homecoming at all. Let's see what Homecoming 2 does. But Avengers 4 is the one that's going to really tell us what's what. We also asked you guys, Marvel TV. We know there's lots of stuff in development or they've talked about. We asked you guys, due to a post from another website that says, pick the next Marvel Netflix series between Ghost Rider, Blade, Heroes for Hire, which is Iron Fist and Luke Cage together, and Moon Knight. So when it comes to all of these ones, here's, people who don't know, Blade is he's from the Midnight Sun comics. He's Wesley Snipes because there was the 3 films, the original quote-unquote Marvel films. There's been a Blade TV series already after Blade Trinity. Yes, there was a Blade TV series. There's been a Blade animated anime series. Having him come back, a lot of people really want. Ghost Rider, we had a fantastic, amazing Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When Ghost Rider showed up, they made Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. the show I really want to see. But I've even enjoyed the Ghost Rider movies. The first one more than the second. The second one, I really don't remember much about her. It's kind of just a dumpster fire. Moon Knight is kind of like Marvel's Batman. Fantastic stories, fantastic writing from Moon Knight. And of course, Heroes for Hire combines 2 characters we've already had in their own shows on Netflix into one. I think it would probably help Iron Fist. And probably Luke Cage. I'm not the biggest fan of Luke Cage himself. I didn't like the show, but you don't have to like every show Marvel does. I really love Daredevil, and we're getting Daredevil this season. I think I liked Iron Fist more, but I find the character more interesting, even though that show was way too long and drawn out. McLean Wing is awesome. But Moon Knight, for those who don't know, here's a little bit about this character who, as I said, Mark Spector's his name. He's kind of like the Batman of Marvel. But here is what they say. Mark Spector was the son of a rabbi whose family has fled to Europe in the 1930s to escape the Holocaust. As Mark matured, he rejected his father's morality, embraced materialism, became a heavyweight boxer, then a U.S. Marine, and then a CIA operative. At the CIA, Mark worked with William Cross, who betrayed the agency, later becoming the villain Crossfire. Mark's brother Randall joined him in the CIA, but he also betrayed the agency, selling weapons to both sides in an altercation in Italy. When Mark's lover Lisa overheard Randall's plans, he killed her with a meat cleaver. Yup, that kind of show. Mark hunted Randall down, inflicting injuries that left Randall psychotic. Mark befriended fellow CIA agent Amos Lardner, but unknowingly turned him over to Operation Cobra. Yes, Cobra's in Marvel too. CIA project designed to control its agents' minds. Fed up with the CIA, Mark became a mercenary and spent several years as a hired gun. Although he sought to fight for causes he believed in, Mark was easily persuaded to fight for anyone who paid him enough. While working in Africa, Mark met with French mercenary Jean-Paul Duchamp, whom he nicknamed Frenchie. Mark and Frenchie became close friends and served together on several missions. So he becomes Moon Knight when he does all these missions, and then how should I put it? Stuff happens. So he gets a moon scepter from Frenchie, which is and a moon copter. He basically like Batman. Think of a guy who wears this white instead of black. He has a moon thing on his chest, and he has all the cool gadgets. So he's known to S.H.I.E.L.D. He has lots of aliases. He's from Chicago. His first appearance was in Werewolf by Night, number 32, 1975. His origin, though, was in Moon Knight number 1 in 1980. So he's an interesting one to add in there, and I think they can definitely write some great stuff for him. My choice probably would be Ghost Rider, though, because he's, as we've said, my favorite designed hero. And out of all these answers, you guys are still given tons and tons of stuff. Ghost Rider is by far the biggest. Ghost Rider, and then Blade, and then Moon Knight, and then a couple for Heroes for Hire. I think that Iron Fist show kind of watered down people's desire for that one. But definitely Ghost Rider, especially if you can get both. But if you can do Midnight Sun, you can get Ghost Rider and Blade in the same show because they've done comics together, which I think would work really, really well. And, of course, you can have Johnny Blaze and the one from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and some of the other Ghost Riders have lots of Ghost Riders together. And not just for a tease like in the first movie, to have Ghost Riders in the sky. But that's what you guys saying about those upcoming shows. I know most of you have said before you're looking most to Daredevil coming up. But that's definitely what is coming up. Marvel has a lot of great stuff. As far as games go, well, we're going to have to wait to our Let's Talk fandom, or we're probably going to talk about E3 when it happens next month. I have a feeling we're going to get a little word about a certain Avengers game that's been working on by Crystal Dynamics or Squaresoft, the people who did Lara Croft Tomb Raider and so on. And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, if it gets revealed there. We do not know if it's going to be revealed there. But if it does, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that, with those games. And, hopefully you guys are going to see Deadpool 2. It's having a record weekend so far. The other day, it broke the record for Thursday night pre-screenings, which is kind of awesome for an R-rated movie. And it looks like its opening day was 53.3 million. It looks like it's going to have an opening bigger than the first Deadpool movie, which is fantastic. I've heard from people that it is better than the original. Has a fantastic end credit scene, which you should stay for. And honestly, if you thought Infinity War was a bit too dark, it's might be a good palate cleanser. We'll see. As far as my word on Infinity War, if you have not yet seen it and you still watched through this entire episode, I'm sorry, but go see it. If you have seen most of the Marvel movies, it'll do good. If you haven't seen a lot of them, it's not really the best one to jump into. It doesn't really get background on characters. You should already know them. So it's up to you, but I found it epic. I found it the type of movie I want to see. I like to see more cosmic Marvel. So let's see what they do. I predict in the fourth one, they're definitely going to space. And if you heard our predictions in Let's Talk fandom, where Adam Bray and Travis and I were talking about characters we thought were going to die, I think we got one right. No, we got two. We got Heimdall and Vision right. And I think someone guessed Loki, but I don't think anyone guessed Gamora. I was thinking Nebula, but hey, I like that choice. Gamora's sacrifices herself to save Nebula. I like it. Let's see what they do. And I'm game for the next one. What about you? So this is the end of this episode. It's going to be a little shorter, of course, than the other ones. Next time, though, we'll announce what we're going to talk about there. But if you have any suggestions, comments, you can leave us a voicemail message. It's in the comments, or you can email the show, or email me directly at baynatives@gmail.com. It is also in the comments. Or leave us a comment, or send us a message on Facebook or on Twitter. We'd love to hear what you think. Do you love Infinity War? Did you love Deadpool 2? How are you looking forward to the next ones? Do you want more X-Men? Do you want more Spider-Man? More MCU in general? Let's see what you think. Sound off in the comments. But for now, we gotta close the door.